Hey everybody! On this episode, we're going to be restoring this antique oak 3-door chest.
Most furniture made prior to 1970 was a lot better quality than today's standards. Have a family heirloom or doing a furniture flip? Let us help you with that. Give your furniture some love.
I have a client that brought this to me. It's an old family heirloom. She's about the only piece of furniture she had left over from her grandparents. It is a pretty common piece, although it does have a nice dual paneled sides on it. You can see the finish is looking a little tired. Some of it's got a little paint mixed in with it. It's missing a keyhole cover there. It's also missing the backsplash or mirror, whichever it had. So we'll have to make a new one of those. So hope you enjoy the video. First thing we need to do is get the hardware pulled off the drawers. Oh, these are sticky drawers. Sticky drawers? Ooh. This is a common problem with older pieces. The drawer guides get wore down, or the drawer sides, or both. Looking at the sides of this drawer, I'm surprised I'm not seeing more wear on the side. I can see a little bit there towards the back. Looking inside, you can see, wow, there's a lot of wear on those guides. So we'll have to replace those. You can see this joint's coming apart. We'll have to take this whole carcass apart and rebuild it, reglue it, get it all like new again. Okay, we got all the hardware pulled off the drawers and keyhole covers removed. We're going to go ahead and leave the lock in since we won't really need to remove that for any reason. As you can see, the drawer insides is not quite seated in the groove. That's mainly because the joints here, or drawers, are coming apart. Those will need to be reglued. This side's sticking way out, so see how they're just loose in there, so we'll have to reglue all those. All right, we got all the parts pulled out, the drawers are pulled out. You can get in here and see what we got to see. I don't see any screws on the underside holding that top on, so it appears that it's all nailed together. It's basically 2 layers. You got the lower frame and then the flat portion mounted on top of that. So that top will have to come off before we can get the carcass apart. You can see it is coming apart there. So another thing I noticed is as someone has come through at some point and cut the legs down short, they would probably have been about 3 or 4 inches a little longer than they are. So they probably got rotten sitting in some basement somewhere, and they just hacked them off and made the best of it. So I will put some stem casters in here, more of a period caster that will raise it up a little higher. Also, you can see someone has added some screen wire in the bottom of it. I guess that was to keep the mice from getting up into the drawers. So imagine that would probably be pretty effective. I will remove that though as well. Here you can see some of the nails that are holding the top on. There's one right here. There's one set down on in here, and another one set down into here. And on this side, 1, 2, 3 nails. So the only way I could get those efficiently out is just basically hit hammer from the bottom and try to pull it all out, nails and all. Then I can get the nails pulled out individually. I got a little bit more than I bargained for on that piece, but it needed to come out anyway to get it reglued. We will need to separate the two layers, the very top and then the frame part underneath. Those are also nailed together, and so we'll have to get those taken apart. When it comes to removing finish head nails, I always found it's best to pull them through the underside instead of the way they went in. That keeps the wood from splintering on the side that you want to see. To do that, I usually use just a side cutter, get in as close to the bottom of the nail you can, and just kind of work it on through. And you can see a little finish head nail. So, and the opposite side will look just unscathed. Because I'm going to be adding a strip of wood to extend this width of the top, I need to run the edge of this through the joiner to get a nice clean edge. All right, we got our top frame all glued back together now. We got C-clamps at every corner and bar clamps. So we got that, get that drying so we can reinstall it. I also got the board cut to make the backsplash and the top extension out of. I just need to zip a strip off of that for the extension and cut that to shape. The glue I like to use when it comes to working with antiques is hide glue, liquid hide glue. It comes in the bottle just like regular glue, and it's made from horse hide, and any furniture built 1950 or prior is usually glued together with this stuff. Nice thing about this, it does bond well with the old glue, where the new glues don't bond as well to the old hide glue. And plus it gives you a nice long open time when you're working with it. So, okay, here we have it. All the parts are all disassembled. The two side panels have already been knocked apart and re-glued. The top panel frame has been knocked apart and re-glued, and the top itself has had the wood strip added to the back side. I've created a pattern for the backsplash. I just took a piece of paper and folded it in half lengthwise, and then hand drew the pattern onto the paper and folded it in half and cut it out with one cut, so both sides are exactly the same. Now let's get this backsplash cut out with the bandsaw. Okay, the case is all glued back together. It's a little off square, so you can see what I did with this clamp going diagonally. That pulled it back to where it needs to be until the glue sets. In the corner of the case, you can just use a regular square to check it. But as you can see, we got a corner block here that's kind of in the way. So what I like to do is put another block of wood on top of that. Then I can get that clamp right up there where I need it to be. So you can see it's right on the money. I now have the top frame installed on the case. Instead of using nails like it was put on originally, I went ahead and used screws, screwed down into the frame all the way around. I also have holes drilled through there, so there'll be screws coming up from the bottom of that going into the top. So the whole top will be totally removable after this is done. And I also have the backsplash installed on the top. It's glued down, and there's screws coming up from underneath the top. So that'll be nice and solid. So this top is now ready to be reinstalled. Okay, I've created some new drawer guides out of poplar to replace the old ones that were wore down. And I've used a framing square across the face of it to mark a line down on the sides to know where these need to be glued on. Now I will reinstall these with nails and hide glue, just like they were originally. Here you have it. The drawer guides are all nailed and glued back in place. Now it's time to take the drawers all apart and rebuild the sides where it has been worn down. We'll need to add another strip of wood onto this to make up what has been wore off over the years. Now you can see that I've added wood to all the drawer sides, make up where it was wore down. So next step would be to cut these all down to the right width to fit the drawer. All right, we have the last of the 3 drawers glued together. I've used 4 bar clamps, 1 in each corner, and the bottom is slid into place, but it hasn't been nailed yet. I'll wait till the glue is dry to do that. One thing you always got to remember when you're gluing up the drawers, always make sure that you use a square to make sure they're glued up square. If they're off, then you can run a clamp diagonally, or depending on which way you need to go to pull that square for you till the glue sets. We are now ready to strip this piece down, get all this old finish off down to the wood. Things you're going to need for that: you're going to need a cup to put your stripper in, a brush, your catch basin. I use this trough for drywall, works real good. Putty knife, scraper, rags. I usually use old terry cloth towels. I usually cut those up into squares. They make good stripping rags because of the nubby texture. Of course, you need your gloves to protect the solvents from your hands. The stripper. I use a methylene chloride based stripper. It works best. A lot safer, a lot better than the safe strippers, although you do need some proper ventilation to use these because they do fume out pretty bad. What I use to clean up after the stripper, I usually use a lacquer thinner. Like I said, that's also going to create a lot of fumes. If you're in a confined area around open flame, you don't want to use these products. You probably need to go with outdoors. Or use one of the safer strippers that don't have all the fumes. As far as the scraper, I usually like to round the corners on these, which makes it a little safer for the piece. That way you're not running scratches accidentally when you're scraping the finish off. To apply the stripper, I usually start at one end. Make sure you get a nice even coat of it on there. And I like to just brush it one direction because it does have some wax pieces in there that help retard the evaporation. So brushing it one direction will help that do its job. So just get a nice even coat on there. And we'll let that sit on there and do its job here for a few minutes. I can see it's already starting to swell up to finish. All right, the stripper's been sitting on there for maybe 3 or 4 minutes, and it looks like it's doing its job. So let's go ahead and scrape it off and see what we have. Start at one end and just work your way to the other, right into the reservoir. Get some solvent on here and wipe it down. I can see a little of that paint that's down in that grain there. Looks like some of it's coming up. You can see the coloring on the rag. Looks like we got a little bit of a stain here, a water stain of some sort. And there you have it. Okay, we've now removed all the finish from this piece. Our next step would be to sand it down to 220 and fill some holes here and there. It looks like it cleaned up pretty good. So we will have to address this stain on the top. It looks like an iron stain. We'll use some oxalic acid solution on that to make that go away. And then the next step would be staining and finishing. I now have the top sanded, and now I need to take care of this iron stain or water stain that's in this oak. And to do that, we'll need to mix up a solution of oxalic acid and water. I got this off of Amazon, and what you'll need is a disposable brush and a cup of water. It could be hot water, warm water, cold water. It doesn't really matter. And to reach a saturated solution, you have to start slowly adding the powder to the water, stirring as you go until it stops dissolving. And at that point, it's reached its saturated solution and it's ready to apply to the top of the dresser. All right, we have our oxalic acid ready to go. And the trick to this is you don't want to just brush it on the stain. You need to do the whole surface because it will alter the color of the wood around it. So try not to drip it on the sides. Just get the top surface and that'll brighten up the old wood. This usually works good on iron stains or water stains. Occasionally we do get a stain that's like an oil stain in a piece of wood. The oxalic acid will not fix that, unfortunately. But hopefully this stain will come out for us. I can see a little staining around where those nails used to be. So hopefully it'll take that staining out as well. This is an acid. It comes in a crystal form, and once it dries, it will turn back to a crystal form. And so when you sand this, those crystals get airborne, and they will give you sneezing fits. So I would recommend using a respirator when you're sanding it off, or just do it outdoors. And so far, I'm not seeing any fading in this stain yet. So let's give it a good wet soak right here. I now got it sanded and filled and ready for stain. So I had to do a little filler, you can see in places. I had to color that in the finishing process. The stain I plan on using is made by Verithane. It's an oil stain. Color is Gunstock, and that'll be our base stain. And here it is with its base stain color applied. I will have to adjust the color a little bit on the new wood to get it to match the old oak, since oak tends to yellow with age. So we will wait at least 24 hours, let this dry before we start applying the finish. Here it is with one coat of sanding sealer on it. And then I've also applied a paste wood filler, which is a pigmented brown. You can see how it's given it more of a consistent grain color. The grain filler I use is an oil-based product I get from Mohawk Finishing Products. It is a pigmented base, kind of a thickness, about the consistency of peanut butter and other things I don't want to mention. But you just brush it on, work it into the grain, and then you rub it back off with a clean rag. And then I usually follow up with a rag soaked with mineral spirits to get that last residue off. And this will need to dry at least 24 hours. And once it's dry, I will start adding lacquer to the top to finish it off. Whenever you're spraying a finish or working around lots of fumes, it's always good practice to get you one of these charcoal respirators. It'll keep you from looking like this. I will be spraying on 3 to 4 coats of this ML Campbell satin lacquer and sanding in between coats with 400 grit water dry sandpaper. Okay, we have it all put back together and finished. Got the hardware all shined up. Got new casters on the bottom. And we went ahead and replaced all the keyhole covers since we were missing one of those. That is something that we sell, one of the many parts we sell on AnniesHomestore.com as well as Etsy.com. I did find an original key to work the locks, so the customer will be happy about that. It has a satin lacquer finish and should hold up great for many generations. And look, No more sticky drawers. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like button. To see all of our future fun and instructional videos to come, make sure you subscribe to our channel. Show your furniture some love.